and welcome back, Bots and Bits fans. Now, look what I have today. It has finally arrived after 6 months of delays. The robot hero, appropriately coded K-01, Pony and his little partner. That's fantastic. It's actually meant to be Wave Guy and his little followers or something along those lines of a good old Google Translate. I didn't think anything could top Durden and Barney, but Robot Heroes have done it. I can't wait to see what they translate their next product's name as. Now, I bought this guy from showzstore.com. Their links are in the description and also here on the screen. Go check them out if you're interested in buying this guy. They have pretty great service and they've always been able to solve any trouble that I've had with things. Now, I know you hate boxes. I hate boxes. But this box is a work of art, so we're going to have a quick look at it, alright? Just bear with me. This thing looks fantastic. Look at that. Big Soundwave box. That is just so cool, with the details on the side as well. It looks fantastic. That is, if you saw that on a shelf, you could not walk past it. And even better is their custom artwork on the back. That just looks brilliant. Absolutely brilliant. Robot Hero have got a really cool artist on board, I think. Their Durden and Barney artwork was cool as well. Actually, that was fantastic. But this looks great. I really dig it. Anyway, that's enough of that. On to Soundwave himself. Alright, let me just adjust this camera a little bit so we can take a good look at Soundwaves Accessories first. Now, as you probably already know, he comes with all the exact same accessories as the other Soundwaves. You get his crappy little sonic finder thing. Oh, I can't remember what this was, like an antenna or whatever. You get pretty cool looking Energon cube, nicely done. What else we got? We've got the Megatron Gun, which is done really well actually. The silver paint is on there really smooth. The plastic has no sprue marks on, you know, a couple up the top, but they're tidied up pretty nicely. Yeah, it's all holding on really well. It's nice and stiff. Nothing in there is loose. The hinge isn't loose, that isn't loose. These all still come off. Oh, he's got a black nozzle, black barrel. So yeah, we'll look at that a little bit later. We get we get that little cover for him, which I'll chuck on now. Well, it's not on there the tightest, so that I just sort of lift it off, but yeah, it's not on there very tight, and that is a common theme with this figure. Yeah, alright, we'll get to that after. Anyway, so the gold trim is done pretty good. I do just have a couple little spots around here, but apart from that, it is really evenly done, and yeah, it's good. What have we covered? We get the battery gun. Plastic looks a little bit inconsistent. A couple little like weird flashy bits there, almost like a stress mark, but like there's nothing to stress. A couple of sprue marks. Red paint is done really well. Slight little smudge there, but I think that's just going to come straight off. Kind of. Yeah, so not too bad. Connection here isn't the greatest, but it's still nice and stiff. Let's see. Handle comes out much easier than before. Oh, that was so much easier to transform than the previous ones we've had. That is always an issue for me, getting it out. My nails just aren't long enough to grip it. Not floppy or anything. Looks good. It doesn't seem like he can really hold. That peg hole is way bigger than this peg. So tabbing it in, yeah, it doesn't hold. I guess he will hold it through friction of the fingers alone, I think. Kind of. But yeah, that's not ideal. Also get the batteries as well, or the pile driver things, and they're nice and tight in there. Open it up, and the pistols aren't in there too bad. Oh, it's just popped out. Yeah, looks alright. Silver's nicely done. It was in there quite tight, but there's no scratching. Anyway, can you see that? No scratching. Now, onto the cassettes. Now, I'm not going to compare all of these tapes to Toy House Factory and Takara. That's going to take forever, and nobody really gives a shit. I'm just going to say, though, that comparing them personally, the paintwork on all of these tapes is fantastic. Now, I'll cover this Auto Scout last because I'm going to do the transformation on that one. So, they all get a cassette cover except for the Auto Scout, right? And look at that. Look at that paint. That just looks absolutely perfect. I thought that was a chip then, but it was just a bit of dirt. Look at that. There's like no lumps. There's no dirt in it. Look at how clear that writing is on the bottom. See what I mean? The paint on these is just phenomenal. That is just super, super well done. Look at that. Is that a scratch? That is a slight scratch in the gold. A little bit of scratching in this gold here in the crotch area. But apart from that, look at that. Slight overspray here. But look at the numbering at the bottom. Look at around the screws. Look at the black in there. It's all done really, really well. It's just same with Ravage. That silver is just fantastic. Just a couple of sprue marks, just little dots there and there. But really, that's it. Buzzsaw as well. Check that out. A few mold lines, but no, yeah, it's just they've done really well. And Laserbeak. Yeah, look, couple of mold lines, but that's to be expected. They're just so tiny. But that is some of the best Masterpiece tape paint that I have ever seen. And the Auto Scout is just as good. Look at all those colors. I mean, you got a few pins showing up through there, but still, all of this is where it says audio tape. I mean, it's missing the bottom of the word audio on this hinge section here, but still, yeah, that's really well done. All right, let's get this one transformed. Now, it's not rocket science. You just fold. Maybe it is. Where's the section? The tabs in this are a little bit stiff, so we bring them down. They're a bit stiff. The first time I did them, I thought they were going to snap, but they held up, and that goes up like that. Now, this little dildo thing here, it's really loose, which is a little bit annoying, and mine has a chip on it. So there, just in the red. So that's a little bit disappointing, but whatever. I guess because it's loose, when this has been folded down and it's been rattling about in shipping or whatever, it's just chipped against the little claw arm down there. Alright, now grab this section, just fold that around. It's got a little wheel in the front. Now these bits here are really, really stiff, and it's just hard. The clearance on this section just isn't that great, so you've got to sort of like separate them and then try and shimmy them over. I need something to pry open instead. Now the instructions, right, they say to shimmy one over and then lean the other one over, but that doesn't really work. It's just so much flex. There we go. Alright. So there's that one. And then we just pull the wheel down a little bit and shimmy that up. Let's get this one. Come on, the wheel's gone all the way down. The hinges for one of my wheels is much tighter than the other one. There we go. Alright. Oh, now my wheel's gone back up again. I think the wheel's only meant to come out like that, but on this side the wheel comes all the way out. So now I can't get this claw out with my fingers. I've tried and tried and tried. I thought there would be some sort of like tab here for leverage that you could just sort of flick up, but there's not. So I'm going to use this to pry it out. So if there are any scratches on this, it's probably from doing this. So I wouldn't recommend using a little screwdriver, but there we go. And there's Auto Scout's little hinge claw, and there it is. Now I realize that was a messy transformation, but you get the idea, don't you? So yeah, he's kind of cool, nice little gimmick. I'm not sure which one this is a KO of. I think there was a KFC one. Was there a TFC one as well? I don't know. If you know which one this is, comment below. I'd love to know definitively without having to take the effort to look it up. But yeah, there you go. So with that out of the way, I'm going to transform all the other tapes and we'll see how they look in their bot or animal modes. Now, I may have spoken a little too soon about perfect tapes. While trying to transform both Buzzsaw and Laserbeak, I've run into a bit of a problem, and that is when folding the wings back, they don't want to go all the way back, and I'm getting separation in the body in here and this sort of arse section here. And let me just bring a bit more light in here so we can get a good look. Alright, so we've got a bit more light. If you just focus for a change. See this arse section? And you'll see these lines just under the feet here. And I'm trying to bring these back and get them back in. See, look, now it's lifted. See the pegs coming out of the holes there? And see all this section around his legs lifting up? If I move it back, look, all of that goes back flat again. I'm going to bring the wings in, and it's all raised, right? And you've got a little bit of, see how it's raised a little bit there? I can't get that to go back, no matter how hard I try, and it's the same on Buzzsaw as well. See, I've got the raised areas around the legs. It would be a cool detail if it was intentional. Yeah, so that's disappointing, really disappointing. And yeah, because apart from that, they're done so well. The paint on the eyes is nice and vibrant. The beak is done pretty well. It's got a little bit of black bleeding through, but apart from that, great. The silver is done really neat. The black is done really neat. The yellow is done well. Got one chip there, but I also have a chip in the exact same spot on Laserbeak as well. This might just be a problem with mine. It's weird that it's both. Look at that flexing. Look at that. So that's yeah, that's disappointing when it comes to them. And Laserbeak's the same. Look at the red in the wings. A little bit of overspray on the side there, but it is very, very vibrant red, especially on the body. Those eyes are done well. The beak's done well. Silver's done well. Black on the back here is really neat. The paint is done really well, right? It's just that flexing at the end, and I can't get the wings all the way back. So Ravage again. Paint is done really well. Joints are all really, really nice and stiff. This thing is really good to pose. He's done pretty well, with one exception that I've found. I can't get the nose to tab in, right? That little tab hole just in there, and the tab on the side of his nose. I can't. If I push them together, it just wants to squeeze back out again. It won't tab in. Maybe I can get a file in there and just make that tab hole a little bit bigger. Maybe it's too big, and so there's like no grab when we put them together. But it's only a minor gap that may or may not bother you. I don't know. Again, another pity, because joint wise, paint wise, a lot of the time on Ravage you can't even see his eyes, but his eyes are a very nice red. Really, you can really see it. I don't know if it's coming up on camera that well, but in person it really stands out. Whereas a lot of the other ones, it looks like he doesn't even have eyes. Now, Rumble and Frenzy, these guys are done really well. The shining stars of the tapes. But again, with a couple of exceptions, I do have a stress mark. I've transformed these about 3 times, and I've got a tiny stress mark just above the shoulder there, just that little tiny white. You seeing that? Little tiny white line. And I've got the exact same one here as well. There's another shame, because the joints are just, they're all really nice and stiff. The hips are good, really good in fact. The knees are really good. The feet are nice and stiff. Elbows, head swivel, the whole lot. And another thing, a detail that they've paid attention to, was this waist extension on the, was it the THF or the KO? I can't remember, where it would extend too far and it would sort of rock left and right. It's not the case. It is a very, very secure tab, more secure than any of the other ones I've used, and it's nice and tight when it doesn't even want to go back. Still, there we go, nice and tight when going back, and then when transforming, listen to that, really, really good tab. And it's the same on this one as well. The paint on their face is done beautifully. Very, very nice. Very nice indeed. oh man, I'm so sick and tired of this camera losing focus, is do not buy a Lumix G85. Okay? Promise me. Anyway, so let me just put my light back where it belongs, and let's take a good look at Soundwave in his Walkman mode. Plenty of diecast in this guy. He's got lots and lots of heft. Everything holds together reasonably well, but there is a bit of a theme when it comes to this, and that is kind of loose. So everything is holding in exactly as it should, right? And as you sort of do whatever you do with a Walkman, nothing's really coming out, but it doesn't take much effort for it to come out. So like it is holding in fine, but not as tight as some. Anyway, detail wise, we do have that nice recorder and battery symbol there. The red light, it's not like a clear transparent piece of plastic like the others. It is a bright red painted piece. The silver is all nice and smooth. The blue here is all done really well. This reflective blue all the way around, it is nicely done. The gold is also nicely done. Check that out. Look at that. Maybe a little bit fuzzy on the inside, that if I had to nitpick, but that gold all the way around, done very nice. Done very nice on the edge. Slight overspray here. I'm going to let that slide because the rest of it is just perfect. This silver here, very slight blemish, but apart from that, look at how smooth that is. It's not powdery. It's not flaky. Robot Hero and their paint, I'm going to say that their paint is some of the best. What they've done on this and the rest of the tapes, fantastic. Yeah, I mean, there's not much to say about it. The chrome on the front looks great. The buttons, those ones don't do anything, but those ones are spring-loaded. So, yeah, not much more to say about it, really. It looks good. I'm going to put him into robot mode. I'm not going to show the transformation. We all know it. Everybody knows it. So, yeah, I'm going to skip it. Alright, that out of the way, let's get some comparisons going. So I've got Takara here on the right, and we've got Toy House Factory on the left. Now Takara has KFC hands, and Toy House Factory has a crappy Decepticon logo that I put on. I've tried to get it off, it's not coming off. Whatever. As you can see, there are differences. The red here in the wrists is a little bit thinner, well, a lot thinner than Takara and Toy House Factory. The Takara red is much more vibrant than the Robot Hero. The golds on these two match more closely, although this is a brighter, richer, more gold color. This is a bit more flat, and this is much, much darker. Robot Hero seems to have the more reflective silver in the forearms and the legs, with Toy House Factory coming in second, and Takara having a very flat, even silver. The faces, now the Toy House Factory head is from the Year of the Goat, so it's got a different mouthpiece and different visor. The visor sort of comes out further. The Robot Hero is thankfully using the same face as the Takara. I think that's the best one. It has that sort of candy coloured eyes on the inside, which is what the Robot Hero has, whereas the Toy House Factory just has a spray painted piece, I believe that is. Chrome on the Robot Hero and Toy House Factory look about the same, whereas the Takara is using sort of a more of a perfect mirror, whereas this is, I don't know, this picks up the light differently to this. Toy House Factory is a very dark blue compared to them all, but so Robot Hero is sort of in between the two. Details wise, they're all a little bit different. As we know, the Toy House Factory has simplified details where they've sort of buried some of it, but when it comes to these two, I find that the Robot Hero has the exact same details, but they're a little bit more shallow. Does that make sense? If we look here in the shoulder details, these squares aren't cut quite as deep as on the Takara, and no matter how I stand them, the Robot Hero just always looks to be like a couple of mils bigger. Are you seeing that? Look, I'm forcing them flat as can be, right? Oh, get back in there. As flat as can be, and the Robot Hero seems to be like 1 mil, maybe 2 mils bigger than the Takara. Maybe it's just in the arms, I don't know. So the details, they're very, very slightly different. This circle here on the forearm on the Takara seems wider and a little bit more flat, whereas on the Robot Hero, it's slightly rounder and more deep set. Details up here exactly the same. Details on the face look exactly the same, although the Robot Hero eyes might be slightly further back. Details in the legs are all exactly the same. The knees, the shins, with these so these little squares here in the shins. Like I said up there, not quite as deep set as on the Takara, but the rest of the details look exactly the same. Oh no, here we go, here's another different, this little hole, slight different detail. Come up a bit and check out this back detail. So this is one of the biggest differences when it came to the Toy House Factory. The details on the Takara are like deeper set, so you're getting some natural shadow cast inside the detail here, whereas the detail is the same design, just not as deep, so we're not getting as much natural shadow in the silver. Then looking at the Toy House Factory, the details have been simplified on the Toy House Factory. So like this section here with these little three lines next to the circle, they've just put like a straight bar over it sort of thing. But yeah, they're just minor things but worth pointing out. When it comes to KOs, I think the Robot Hero is probably the closest to the Takara that you would want to buy. I do not recommend that first KO that come out where they just ratcheted everything because they could. I just tried to hang on to it for comparison, but that thing was just a mess, and I was just going to tell you to avoid it anyway. But when it comes to build quality and the joints and those sorts of things, the plastic on this does feel really, really sturdy. Some of the tabs are a little bit tight, some are a little bit loose. And when they were flexing, I didn't feel like they were going to snap. When it comes to this, it feels kind of soft. The Takara one, I think, is still the definitive. I can't fault it. There's nothing wrong with it. But Toy House Factory was a little bit on the crappy side. But anyway, when it comes to the joints, we have the Toy House Factory does have a great, well, maybe not a great, it has a loud hip ratchet, but not a particularly strong one. So the Robot Hero, while it doesn't sound as loud, quite soft, is holding better than the Toy House Factory. But when it comes to the hips, he can't really hold his own weight. Whereas I'm pretty sure the Robot Hero, the Toy House Factory, yeah, listen. Toy House Factory had some tight hips. The legs are heavy, so when you give them a shake, they are going to fall, but they did hold quite well. Thigh swivel was super tight as well. The knees had a little bit of play in them, but not much. And their knee ratchet wasn't particularly strong. Compare it to the Robot Hero, the knee ratchet doesn't move at all. Arms were nice and stiff on the Robot Hero. They're a little bit soft on the Toy House Factory, right? A little bit soft, and that elbow on the Toy House Factory was loose, and that wouldn't tab in. On the Robot Hero, these tabs, they're not the strongest, right? Not the strongest at all, but when you see, go in, yeah, okay. It's not, that one's not too strong either. That one's alright, you can manipulate the arm and it's not coming out, but that one, nah. It's coming out. What is this? Yeah, see, look, that does it on both. So that's disappointing. But then when it comes to the Takara, comparing to those two, so manipulating the arm of the Takara doesn't pop that out. Doesn't pop it out on this one either. Comes to the hips out. They're quite strong. They can hold his weight. Giving him a shake, they do drop. So thigh swivel's good. The knees, the upper hip ratchets on the Takara are very loud, and the knee gives out before the hip does. Nice sounding ratchet on the Takara as well, and a little bit loose. Overall, I still think the Takara is the winner out of the lot. If you can afford or find a Takara one, I suggest you get it. If you can't, I think I'd recommend the Robot Hero over my Toy House Factory, at least anyway. Alright, so final thoughts wise, is it worth it and should you buy it? In my opinion, the Robot Hero Soundwave is the better of the 3 KOs that I've handled. The Toy House Factory is close to Robot Hero. If you've got a Toy House Factory, I wouldn't recommend upgrading to Robot Hero. If you have none, I'd recommend getting the Robot Hero. That said, knowing the effort and the love that Robot Hero have put in for months, and just all of those delays and changes and just all of the hurdles they come across getting this product out, I really feel like this is not what they wanted to release. They wanted this Soundwave to complement implement their custom line of tapes. And while it's good, it was good-ish, all the improvements they were talking about and their changes and the way that they were talking about this thing and just the effort they were putting into it. While it's better than the other KOs, I was expecting better than the Takara. I was expecting this to be the top MP13, sort of like the Yes Model Seekers. People will sell their officials to buy the knockoff Yes Models because it was an improvement. This isn't an improvement over Takara. Can't say anything about Hasbro. I don't have the Hasbro Soundwave. I haven't had one for a long time. This is a first run Takara MP13 and it is still my definitive one. If you have a Takara MP13 and there's nothing wrong with it, don't get rid of it. But if you don't have a Soundwave at all and you're looking at a knockoff, can't afford or can't find an original, I do recommend, it's a funny recommendation. Mine wasn't perfect, there are some things I don't like about it. I do feel that the Robot Hero MP13 is better than my Toy House Factory MP13. The paint on that thing was garbage, the joints were about equal, so it's sort of, yeah, the Robot Hero is the better of the knockoffs. But the problem with the complete package though, is I did have structural issues with the tapes, and pretty much all of the tapes I had structural issues with them. The Toy House Factory tapes, the paint on them is just, they look like shit. But I haven't had a Toy House Factory break. I haven't had a stress mark or a crack on them. Structurally, they were better. So I hope you were able to gauge an opinion out of all of that. Yeah, good luck. Now, if you like what I'm doing and you enjoyed my video, please like and subscribe to my channel. Remember to check out my Facebook for daily news and updates on KO and third-party stuff. I have a new Instagram account, #botsandbits, all one word. And as always, guys, thank you very much for your time and thanks for watching.